King Review Print Speaking to the Blind, celebrating 40 years of audio newspaper production. Welcome to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times podcast, recorded at the Bishop Briggs Media Centre by our amazing volunteers. You can get in touch with us via Facebook, Twitter or Instagram using @QNReview. That is @ CUEANDREVIEW. You can also contact us directly by emailing information@QNreview.com. That is INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling 0141 772 3976. That's 0141 772 3976.
The Glasgow Times on Thursday the 23rd of January 2025. From the news section. Glasgow named on Time Out's top 15 places to visit in the UK. This article has been written by Adam Robertson and it's being read by me, Corey. 2 locations in Scotland have featured on Time Out's top 15 places to visit in the UK for 2025. The travel guide has named Orkney and Glasgow on its list, with the former coming in 4th place, with the latter was in 15th. Praise was heaped on both areas, with Orkney's unique identity highlighted in the guide, as well as the Neolithic archaeology and a food and drink scene punching well above its weight. Time Out also pointed to the International Island Games, which will be held from July 12th to 18th. Glasgow, meanwhile, was praised for its major sporting events, world-class concerts, great arts and culture venues, and an up-and-coming food and drink scene. As well as this, Time Out also noted that no visit would be complete without a stroll through one of the city's many beautiful parks. Here is a look at the full list. 1. Folkestone. 2. Stratford. 3. Stoke-on-Trent. 4. Orkney. 5. Bradford. 6. Southampton. 7. York. 8. Whitby. 9. Cardiff. 10. Birmingham. 11. Newlyn. 12. Liverpool. 13. Norwich. 14. Belfast. And 15. Glasgow. To read more about it, simply go to Google and type in Time Out Magazine, Best Places to Visit in the UK 2025. That article was from the Glasgow Times. It was from the news section. It was written by Adam Robertson, and it was read by me, Corey. The Glasgow Times on Thursday the 23rd of January 2025. From the news section. Glasgow skincare business Soapworks returns to profitability. This is an exclusive article written by Christy Dorsey, and it's being read by me, Corey. A Glasgow company that ships soap on a charity basis to areas of man-made and natural disasters around the world has returned to profitability in its latest financial year, after slashing its administrative costs by more than £500,000. Directors at Soapworks said their Soap Aid project remains an important aspect of operations at the company, which makes high-end products for a variety of retail brands and hotel chains across the UK and Europe. Where possible, residual materials nearing the end of their life cycle are converted into Soap Aid charity soap by staff who manufacture these products in their own time. The company works with its partners in this project, Glasgow the Caring City, and the soaps are distributed to areas that have suffered pandemics, natural disasters, or refugee camps, for example, directors said. The comments were contained within Soapworks' latest accounts filed with Companies House, which show a small decline in turnover during 2023 to £11.5 million during 2023 as growth opportunities in the EU were restricted by Brexit. The company said it hopes to reduce these barriers to entry as it becomes accustomed to the new way of trading. Despite these difficulties, administrative expenses fell to £1.4 million, versus nearly £2 million previously, with a resulting pre-tax profit of £19,000. In the previous year, Soapworks made a loss of £520,000. The company was set up in 1988 by the late Anita Roddick to provide jobs in Glasgow's Easterhouse area making soap for her body shop chain, which was sold to French group L'Oréal in 2006. Soapworks subsequently became an independent business following a management buyout in 2010. Since 2018, it has been owned by Dabon, a major supplier of palm oil and other organic ingredients headquartered in Colombia. Headed up by Managing Director Brian Cumming, Soapworks said it is continuing to increase the use of sustainable materials in its products, which also include filling and bottling services for essential oils. This allows its customers to market this within their products' offerings. The company, which employs around 100 people in Easterhouse, said it continues to exceed its delivery performance and quality performance targets, which are the key foundations for a successful business. That article was from the Glasgow Times. It was from the news section. It was an exclusive article written by Christy Dorsey, and it was read by me, Corey. The Glasgow Times, on Thursday, the 23rd of January 2025. From the news section. Police forced to monitor CCTV due fears of old firm disorder. I assume they've missed a word in the title and it should read Police forced to monitor CCTV due to fears of old firm disorder. This article is an exclusive article written by Gabriel McKay and it's being read by me, Corey. Officers from Police Scotland were given special permission to monitor Glasgow's CCTV ahead of the Rangers v Celtic derby earlier this month, in order to avoid a repeat of the street violence seen late last year. Disorder between the two sets of fans ahead of the League Cup final in December was condemned by First Minister John Sweeney and Glasgow City Council leader Susan Aitken. But, as reported by our sister title, The Herald, the Scottish Police Federation argued it could have been prevented if CCTV cameras had been manned. As part of a £50 million savings drive by the council, cuts to monitoring were phased in from September 2023, which means the cameras are only monitored for 12 hours per day, from 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. Now it can be revealed Police Scotland asked for permission from Glasgow City Council to have its officers be allowed to monitor the network ahead of January's meeting between the sites, with specialist staff not on shift. Ross MacArthur, a senior GMB Scotland representative at the council, said, "It should not be the job of Police Scotland to watch the council's cameras. Officers should not be sitting in council buildings monitoring cameras when there are already expert and experienced staff capable of guiding their response to emergency situations. Police Scotland clearly believe there is a pressing need for staff to monitor the network more than 12 hours a day, and it is impossible to understand why the council does not. This is not just about one football match, it's about keeping Glasgow safe, and properly using the tools we already have in place to protect the people who live and work here." The League Cup final kicked off at 3:30 p.m, with the disorder in the city happening well before cameras would have been manned. The Herald previously revealed that a fifth of CCTV cameras in the city were not working and in need of repair. Of those which are operational, monitoring only takes place between 3 p.m. and 3 a.m. Councillors opted to cut the number of staff from 18 to 9 and halve the monitoring hours to save £350,000. While the cameras do still record for 24 hours a day, they can't be moved outside of monitoring hours, so record only one position. The First Minister promised late last year that he would investigate the CCTV being unmanned on Cup final day. A Glasgow City Council spokesperson said, "The decision to review CCTV staffing levels was taken as part of a council budget that required to find £50 million worth of savings in February of 2023. However, Glasgow City Council continues to have the largest public space CCTV system of any local authority in the UK, and our system is recording footage 24 hours a day. Cameras are positioned on priority locations throughout the city to provide public reassurance for citizens and are monitored every day. All of the CCTV footage of the city centre public spaces is relayed in real time to the Police Operations Centre in Govan. Police Scotland have a presence within our CCTV Operations Centre 24/7 and are able to react accordingly during instances of serious public disorder or when there are serious public safety concerns. Police Scotland have been contacted for comment." That article was from the Glasgow Times. It was from the news section. It was an exclusive article written by Gabriel McKay, and it was read by me, Corey. The Glasgow Times, on Thursday the 23rd of January 2025. From the news section. Rare red Glasgow weather warning issued by Met Office. This article has been written by Adam Robertson and it's being read by me, Corey. A rare red weather warning has been issued for central Scotland with the Met Office warning of danger to life. The forecaster said very strong winds would cause very dangerous conditions and significant disruption on Friday in Glasgow and the West. Storm Eowyn is expected to bring winds of up to 90 miles per hour. The warning will be in place from 10 a.m. on Friday, January 24th, until 5 p.m. on the same day, and the forecaster said to expect the following. Flying debris resulting in danger to life. Large waves and beach material being thrown onto coastal roads, seafronts and homes. Very dangerous driving conditions with fallen trees on roads. Power cuts affecting other services such as mobile phone coverage. Damage to buildings and homes with roofs blown off and power lines brought down. Roads, bridges and railway lines closed with delays and cancellations to bus, train, ferry services and flights. A statement from the Met Office said, southwesterly then westerly winds will rapidly increase from west to east Friday mid-morning onwards into the afternoon, with peak gusts of 80 to 90 miles per hour fairly widely and perhaps up to 100 miles per hour along exposed western coasts. This brings the risk of significant disruption to transport and power supplies as well as dangerous conditions outdoors. Winds will gradually ease through Friday evening. That article is from the Glasgow Times. It was from the news section. It was written by Adam Robertson and it was read by me, Corey.
From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 25th of January. From the lifestyle section, Glasgow attractions announce deals to celebrate city's birthday. By Amy Miles. A series of special deals have been announced by Glasgow's leading attractions to celebrate the city's 850th anniversary. These offers, which run from January to December 2025, are a gesture of gratitude to the city's residents for making the city an attractive place for visitors. The group, known as Glasgow Attractions, was formed in 2001 to promote the city's top attractions, hidden gems and family-friendly locations. It includes a variety of well-known institutions, such as Celtic FC, Glasgow Science Centre and City Sightseeing. Some other members include Glasgow Life, Glasgow Museums, Glengoyne Distillery, Historic Environment Scotland, the Hunterian Art Gallery and Museum, the Macintosh House, and many more. Lee Scott, chair of Glasgow Attractions, said, "To celebrate Glasgow 850 and to thank the residents of Glasgow for making our city such a welcoming place to visit, we've launched a range of exclusive offers. We hope that Glasgow citizens enjoy the chance to visit our attractions and take up the chance of free and discounted entry to paid-for attractions and other exclusive offers. We look forward to welcoming them to our venues throughout 2025. Each member of Glasgow Attractions has announced their exclusive offers for the celebrated year. Celtic Park is offering a stadium tour and lunch combo for £25 per adult and £20 per child under 12, available for the 11am tour on Tuesdays and Wednesdays throughout this year. City Sightseeing is providing a 10% discount on their red route, yellow route and combo tickets. Glasgow Life Museums will be giving a 10% discount in all their museum jobs. The Glasgow Science Centre is offering free entry to the Science Mall on Wednesdays to Fridays throughout September. Glengoyne Distillery will have a 15% discount on other experiences 7 days a week in February and March. Hampden Football Club and the Scottish Football Museum are offering a 50% discount for residents on weekdays in February and March. The House for an Art Lover will have a complimentary admission on Mondays and a discounted 2-course lunch rate of £15 per person in the Art Lovers Cafe, running from February to December. Macintosh at the Willow will be offering free exhibition entry from February to December. The Macintosh House will have free entry on Sundays between 10am and 12pm. Sea Life Loch Lomond is offering 30% off tickets for up to 5 individuals. Tennant's Visitor Centre has a special deal for Glasgow residents only, including a tour and a free half-pint engraved glass, available in January and February. The tall ship Glenlee will have a 50% discount from Monday to Friday, and free entry for kids every Sunday in November, with a 50% discount running until December 19. These offers, along with several others, will be available throughout the year at the respective venues. Article written by Amy Miles and read by Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 25th of January 2025, from the news section. Glasgow City Council warning after Storm Ewan battered city, by Ben Waddell. Glasgow City Council has issued a warning after Storm Ewan battered the city. The local authority has urged members of the public to take care if they are heading out due to debris left behind by the brutal weather conditions. It comes after Storm Ewan ripped through Glasgow and central Scotland on Friday, January 24th. Ahead of it, the Met Office issued a rare red weather warning for the area from 10am until 5pm. Now, in an update following the storm, a spokesperson for the council said, "The red weather warning for Storm Ewan has now ended, but a yellow warning for snow and ice has been issued for Saturday, January 25th. Our gritting teams are already out treating priority roads, cycle lanes and footpaths. Debris from Storm Ewan will still be on the roads, so please take care if you're out and about." And that article was written by Ben Waddell and read by Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 25th of January, from the news section. Huge summer bandstand act adds further night due to demand. Report by Morgan Carmichael. A huge band who are set to play Glasgow's summer nights at the bandstand have added a further date due to high demand. Elbow, famous for songs like One Day Like This, are set to play the iconic West End venue on August the 7th and 8th. However, the band have taken to Instagram today to say they will also be performing on August the 9th as well. It comes after both previous dates sold out. The band said, due to phenomenal demand, Elbow have added a third and final night at Kelvingrove Park in Glasgow as part of the Summer Night Series. Tickets are now on sale and can be purchased on Ticketmaster. Also part of the lineup this year is the legendary Billy Ocean, as well as singers Natasha Bedingfield and Anastasia. Scottish artists like Hue and Cry and Teenage Fanclub will also take to the stage. For the full lineup, visit www.glasgowlife.org.uk. That's www.glasgowlife.org.uk. And that article was written by Morgan Carmichael. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 25th of January. From the news section, popular event in Glasgow postponed after Storm Ailwen. Report by Ben Waddle. A popular event which was set to take place in Glasgow today has been postponed due to damage caused by Storm Ailwen. The Scottish National Whisky Festival was set to be held at SWG3 in the West End on Saturday, January 25th. However, organisers of the event revealed the festival has been postponed due to damage sustained at the venue as a result of Friday's adverse weather conditions. Revealing the news, the festival said they were devastated to call the event off. However, they are working hard to reschedule it to take place at a later date. It was set to kick off at 12 p.m. on Saturday, with its last session finishing at 8 p.m. We reported how Storm Ailwen battered Glasgow and central Scotland yesterday, with extremely high winds. On Thursday, the Met Office issued a rare red weather warning for the area from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. for wind. Announcing the news, the event's organisers said, unfortunately, due to damage sustained at the venue as a result of Friday's adverse weather, Saturday's Scottish National Whisky Festival is no longer able to go ahead as planned. Although Saturday's weather is looking a little better, we cannot confirm at this stage that there will be sufficient time to deal with the damages in order to be able to fully open safely for Saturday's event. Therefore, we and the venue have no other choice but to postpone the event until further notice. While we are absolutely devastated to call it at this late stage, after working so hard today to ensure the event continued as planned, the safety of all staff, exhibitors and attendees is of the utmost importance, and we ask kindly for your patience and understanding at this time. We are currently working hard on a rescheduled date and will provide an update as soon as we are able. Thank you so much for your patience and support. Report by Ben Waddle. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 25th of January 2025. From the news section, South Lanarkshire School to remain closed after Storm Ailwen, by Ben Waddle. A primary school will remain closed for 2 days next week due to extensive damage caused by Storm Ailwen. St Patrick's Primary School and Nursery class in Straven will be shut to all pupils on Monday, January 27th and Tuesday, January 28th. South Lanarkshire Council said the Education Centre will be closed due to damage caused by Storm Ailwen on Friday, January 24th. The brutal storm brought extremely high winds across Glasgow and central Scotland. Ahead of the severe weather conditions, the Met Office issued a rare red weather warning from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. on Friday. Before the storm, we reported how the local authority shut all its schools across the area on Friday. A spokesperson for South Lanarkshire Council said, Notice of school closure, St Patrick's Primary School and Nursery. Due to extensive damage caused by Storm Ailwen, St Patrick's Primary School and Nursery class will remain closed to all pupils and staff on Monday, January 27th and Tuesday, January 28th. We are actively working on contingency plans to maintain continuity of learning during this period. Further updates and information will be provided to all parents and carers as soon as possible. Story written by Ben Waddle.
Glasgow Times News on Monday the 27th of January. Devastation and debris in the wake of Storm Ailwen. An article written by Esther Tarnay. The aftermath of Storm Éowyn could be felt across Glasgow all weekend. During the red weather warning, which was in place on Friday between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m, the city's infrastructure and services took a significant hit. On Saturday, residents reported fallen trees, damaged buildings and overturned bins. Pictures were sent to the Glasgow Times of Crow Road in the West End, where a car was crushed by huge concrete blocks, which are believed to be from a fallen chimney. Glasgow Times photographers also captured the damage caused to Celtic Park. A Scottish Premiership match between Celtic and Dundee was rearranged for the 5th of February due to the storm, as Celtic emphasised that their priority is supporters' safety. The Scottish National Whisky Festival, set to be held at SWG3 on Saturday, was also postponed until further notice due to the severe weather. Organisers said that they were devastated by having to make the call. Multiple Glasgow Life venues, including the Burrell Collection, swimming pools at Glasgow Club, Springburn and The Bridge, Milton and Balmulloch libraries and more were shut in the aftermath, along with the Centre in Cumbernauld. Events such as the Strip the Willow dance on Sauchiehall Street and Braw Bairns at the Mitchell Library were also cancelled. Following Storm Éowyn, a yellow weather warning for snow and ice stayed in place for 1 day. A Glasgow City Council spokesperson warned residents, "Our gritting teams are already out treating priority roads, cycle lanes and footpaths. Debris from Storm Éowyn will still be on the roads, so please take care if you're out and about." Several roads which were shut during the storm due to unsafe buildings or flooding have reopened over the weekend, including the Clydeside Expressway, the Gallowgate and Union Street. On Sunday, Scottish Power said that electricity supplies had been restored to 165,000 homes that went dark in central and southern Scotland, but 14,000 were still without power. Several schools and nurseries which shut on Friday as a precaution announced that they will remain closed this week due to storm damage, including Hillhead Primary School and Early Years Centre and Renfrew High School. South Lanarkshire Council confirmed that St Patrick's Primary School and nursery class in Straven will be shut to all pupils on Monday and on Tuesday. Every other education centre is expected to be open as normal. A spokesperson for Glasgow City Council said, "At this stage, we're hopeful that all schools will be open on Monday and will be assessing the situation across the city today." ScotRail cancelled the vast majority of services for Saturday and Sunday and said some trains to and from Glasgow are still expected to be cancelled on Monday as engineers work around the clock to clean up debris and trees from the tracks. Network Rail revealed that helicopters have taken images of the routes between Glasgow and Edinburgh, as well as to Lanark, Hamilton, Coatbridge, Motherwell and Rutherglen, and that across the country more than 500 incidents were reported. The Glasgow subway and bus services have returned to normal service. This comes as the Met Office branded Storm Éowyn as pretty exceptional and claimed it was probably the strongest storm to hit the UK in at least 10 years. For some parts of the country, it was the most intense in 20 or 30 years, forecasters added. A gust of 100 miles an hour was recorded at Drumalbin in South Lanarkshire on Friday. John Swinney, Scotland's First Minister, asked people to stay patient as repairs are completed over the next few days. He said, after the significant impact of Storm Éowyn, work is underway to restore power supplies and transport networks. It will take some time to complete, and I appeal for the patience of the public. Power company staff and our public servants are working at speed to restore services. An article written by Esther Tarnay.
This is an article from the news pages of the Glasgow Times, published on Monday, the 27th of January. It's written by Kirsty Fearig. Pleas for famous landmark to be saved after Storm Éowyn shattered it. A community has been left devastated after Storm Éowyn claimed a historic Glasgow tree. The Darnley sycamore is believed to be well over 500 years old and today shattered into pieces. The iconic landmark fell victim to ferocious weather conditions as the Met Office put out a red alert for 90-mile-an-hour winds. It stands on the outskirts of Darnley in Glasgow, and now residents are begging for it to be saved. Neil McMahon, who is 46, is a neighbour to the once massive tree and believes its long history and community value is why it should be salvaged. The tree is reputed to be the sycamore tree under which Mary Queen of Scots and her cousin and second husband, Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley, sat while she nursed him back to health from an illness in 1565. Neil said, "The winds have been ferocious here this morning. I have talked to people who also live nearby, and everyone is upset by the tree coming down. When it fell, it shattered into pieces, but the roots are not out, it can be saved. The tree has a massive history, it is hundreds and hundreds of years old. I really hope that the council can save it, because it is a landmark for us, everyone here knows it, it is famous. I have lived in this area for almost 23 years, and I drove by that tree every day. Sometimes I would enjoy just sitting under it and watching the world go by. I know I am not the only one who will miss it. The tree will have many memories from many people, it means something different to everyone." Former First Minister Hamza Yousaf reacted to the news the tree had fallen on social media. He said that the Darnley sycamore is one of the most important trees in Scotland and should be saved if possible. He shared on X, "Gutted to see this. I am not sure if the Darnley sycamore is salvageable, given the extensive damage done by Storm Éowyn, but let's hope so. It is, arguably, one of the most important trees in Scotland." That article was written by Kirsty Fearig.
Glasgow Times News on Monday the 27th of January. Council to increase the cost of a garden waste permit. An article written by Jack Thompson. The cost of a garden waste permit in Renfrewshire will increase from £40 to £47 in the next financial year, after a controversial hike was voted through. The annual fee will rise further to £52 in 2026-2027 and to £57 in 2027-2028, a move which sparked criticism from some elected members this week. Councillor Ian Macmillan, the Labour group leader, said that the surge was far too high as the subject was discussed at a recent Infrastructure, Land and Environment Policy Board. His party called for the charge to remain at its current level and for any changes to be set in line with other adjustments to service charges put forward during next month's budget setting process. However, the new 3-year pricing strategy was passed after a vote. Councillor Macmillan, who represents Johnston South and Elderslie, said, "I just think the proposed increase is far too high for a start. We normally look at service charges as part of the budget process, and the budget process is not that far away. The increase in service charges tend to be an awful lot lower than the proposed charge today, so I think it should be going to the budget process." The veteran politician said that people are getting hammered right, left and centre, as he branded the rise astronomical during the meeting. The permit scheme was rolled out by the local authority in July 2023. Unlike food waste, which people can continue to present on its own in brown bins for uplift free of charge, the collection of garden waste is not a statutory service and therefore not one the council is required to provide. However, an exemption on payment is offered to householders entitled to full or severe mental impairment council tax reduction. Explaining its reasoning behind the increase in a report, the council said that the cost of providing the service is expected to rise significantly next year. Councillor Michelle Campbell, board convener and SNP representative for Erskine and Inchinnan, said that she had considered the proposal very carefully. She added, "We do have measures for exemption built into this, which many other local authorities do not have built into the way that they've done it. We have a full year service as well, which other areas don't have. What we ask is 94 pence per week for the service provision that is run in the first year. In year 2, it's £1.04 per week, and then £1.14 per week for year 3. I don't think that that's asking an astronomical amount." An article written by Jack Thompson. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 27th of January. A decision on plans for a new leisure centre are put on hold. An article written by Drew Sandilands. A decision on proposals for a new Eastwood leisure centre and theatre has been put on hold after a planning meeting was cancelled. Councillors in East Renfrewshire had been expected to consider the project on January the 22nd, but the meeting is now set to be held next month. A spokesperson for the council said it had been rearranged to allow for it to be publicised in accordance with planning regulations. Council planners had recommended that the transformational scheme could be approved. It would see the current Eastwood Park Leisure Centre and Theatre knocked down. A previous project was given the go-ahead in 2022, but councillors later decided to scale it back as rising inflation and volatile interest rates pushed the price up to around £67 million. After the recent planning meeting was cancelled, the council spokesperson said, "The meeting due to be held to determine the planning application for a new Eastwood Leisure Centre and Theatre has been rearranged to allow for it to be publicised in accordance with planning regulations. The meeting is expected to be rescheduled for next month, and the new date will be highlighted on the council's website as soon as it's confirmed." The application for the current £56 million plan was submitted in October last year. It includes an 8-lane, 25-metre swimming pool, a smaller 17-metre training pool and a forecourt games hall. There would also be changing rooms, fitness and spin studios and a cafe, while the theatre would include a 364-seat auditorium and stage, a smaller studio theatre, dressing rooms and bar and lounge areas. The parent council of St Ninian's High School has objected to the scheme, raising concerns over inadequate parking arrangements and unsafe vehicle access. Its letter adds that pupils face a disproportionate loss of amenity. Eastwood MSP Jackson Carlow from the Conservatives said, "There is a considerable need for a new leisure facility and theatre at the site in Giffnock." The plans submitted by the council state that the Rookenglen Road project would have a transformational impact on Eastwood Park, the surrounding area and on East Renfrewshire as a whole. An article written by Drew Sandilands.
This is an article from the news pages of the Glasgow Times, published on Monday, the 27th of January. It's an exclusive article, written by Esther Tarnai. Evictions to collect rent is a mistake, says Glasgow charity boss. Using evictions to collect rent is a mistake which costs more in the long run, a Glasgow charity boss said. Gordon McRae, the Assistant Director of Shelter Scotland, explained that the decision to remove a tenant makes no sense financially and socially. He said, because they will end up back in the homeless system, and impact on other services. Research by us from a few years ago shows that the cost of a social sector eviction for rent arrears can be somewhere between £15,000 and £25,000. The number of people becoming homeless for reasons such as eviction is continuing to increase, and we're not confident that local services have the resources and the capacity to cope. This comes as a Freedom of Information request revealed that the number of tenants evicted by Glasgow's biggest social landlord is on the rise. Wheatley Homes Glasgow removed 91 people from their properties between January the 1st and November the 18th, in 24. In 2023, the number was 82, while in 2022, 36 people had to move out, whilst only 8 people were evicted in 2021. It's understood that antisocial behaviour is one of the most common reasons for action. The company said it does not tolerate it, and any tenant's conviction of crimes, such as drug dealing, will trigger the legal process of eviction. Another reason is rent arrears, and campaigners state that this is caused by the Cost of Living, Tenant Protection Act of 2022, which created stricter rules for eviction, to protect tenants hit by the COVID pandemic and the cost of living crisis. This law came to an end on April the 1st, last year. Mr. McRae said, since the restrictions on eviction were lifted, there's been a steady increase in evictions, as the landlords have effectively dealt with the backlog in the system. That, coupled with the continuing problems that people face, such as paying their rent, staying in work, the cost of living, and mental health issues, mean that every day we see a high number of complex, difficult cases, where people face losing a home simply because they can't afford it. Not that they won't, but they can't pay their rent. Often, these people turn to charities, such as Shelter Scotland, which provides support, legal assistance and information to those worried about keeping their homes. He added, the best advice is to go to the Shelter Scotland website, speak to us, or other local services, understand what your rights are, and engage with your landlord, who, 9 times out of 10, will agree to a payment plan. It's in everyone's interest to keep people in the home that they have, not put them back into a system that's already struggling to cope. Currently, the organisation itself is under extreme pressure. Mr. McRae said, "Homelessness is at a record high, and there are more and more people struggling to afford the home that they have. There's a perfect storm that created this housing emergency, and we need the Scottish Government and the councils to start choosing to put more money, more services, more people and staff time into ending it." A Wheatley Homes Glasgow spokesperson said that eviction is a last resort. They added, "We do everything we can to help anyone having difficulty paying their rent, such as arranging affordable payment plans, helping them access all the benefits they are due, and offering specialist money and fuel advice. However, we have a responsibility to the vast majority of our tenants, who do pay their rent. We are always willing to engage with a tenant up until the last minute, to resolve their issues." That exclusive article was written by Esther Tarnay.
Glasgow Times News on Monday the 27th of January. Glasgow event to celebrate 200 years of Braille. An article written by Sandia Suresh. A special event celebrating the importance of Braille and tactile literacy is set to take place in Glasgow. The Mitchell Library will host the event on Tuesday, January the 28th, organised by the Royal National Institute of Blind People, or RNIB, in partnership with Glasgow Libraries. The event is part of RNIB's UK Braille and Beyond Library Tour, which marks the 200th anniversary of Braille. Running from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. in the Moir Dyer Room on the ground floor, the event will feature exhibitions, scheduled talks, and opportunities to explore cutting-edge resources for individuals with sight loss. There'll also be stalls from leading sight loss organisations, offering information, products, and resources to support visually impaired individuals in their daily lives. Scheduled speakers will provide further inspiration and insights into the significance of Braille. RNIB's Inclusive Design Ambassador Dave Williams will present Braille 200, reflecting on the evolution and ongoing relevance of the tactile writing system. Mr. Williams said, "Braille is reading designed for our fingers, just like print is designed for our eyes. Braille enables my wife to identify her medications, and it gave me the confidence to deliver a best man speech at my friend's wedding. It's a vital tool for professionals across a variety of fields, such as the politician or lawyer who has to rely on Braille to deliver legally binding statements verbatim, or musicians like Stevie Wonder, who told me how he uses Braille to create and edit his song lyrics. Braille readers are more likely to be employed than blind people who don't read Braille, and this highlights a critical need to expand Braille education, ensuring that more children with vision impairment and adults with sight loss can benefit from this powerful tool. Additionally, Matthew Clark, an inclusive design consultant with the RNIB, will share his journey with Braille and how he learned the system at the library. Bailey Annette Christie, chair of Glasgow Live, said, "We're proud to work with the RNIB to host this event at the Mitchell Library, celebrating 200 years of Braille and its profound impact on literacy and inclusion. Glasgow Libraries are dedicated to providing resources and spaces that everyone can use. This event is a great reminder of why accessibility matters and why it's so important to make knowledge and opportunities open to all." An article written by Sandia Suresh. Glasgow Times on Monday the 27th of January. Lifestyle. Former Strictly star to make her musical theatre debut in Glasgow. An article written by Alex Chisholm. Former Strictly Come Dancing professional Jeanette Manrara is set to make her musical theatre debut. She'll play the role of Roxy Hart in the UK and Ireland tour of Chicago. The production will arrive at Glasgow's King's Theatre from August the 18th to the 23rd this year. Miss Manrara said, "This is a dream come true. To have my musical theatre debut be playing the iconic Roxy Hart is so exciting. She's a beautiful, complex character, and I can't wait to bring my Roxy to the stage. I truly look forward to working with the incredible cast and the whole team of one of the best musicals of all time. Looking forward to seeing everyone that comes to the show and giving them a real razzle-dazzle of a show. Miss Manrara will join a cast that includes West End leading lady Jalenga Scott as Velma Kelly, Joshua Lloyd as Amos Hart, and Jordan Lee Davis as Mary Sunshine. The roles of Billy Flynn and Mama Morton are yet to be announced. Miss Manrara is best known for her time on Strictly Come Dancing, where she reached the finals with Harvey. She's also co-hosted BBC Two's It Takes Two and hosted the Strictly Live tour across the UK. Her previous theatre credits include the Broadway and international tour of Burn the Floor, as well as UK touring productions A Christmas to Remember, Remembering Fred, Remembering the Movies, and a streamed version of Remembering the Oscars, all with her husband Aliash Skorianets. She's also an author, having released her debut book, Tiny Dancer, Big World. Set among the decadence of the 1920s, Chicago tells the story of Roxy Hart, a housewife and nightclub dancer who murders her lover after he threatens to leave her. Desperate to avoid conviction, she dupes the public, the media, and her rival cellmate Velma Kelly by hiring Chicago's slickest criminal lawyer to transform her crime into sensational headlines. Created by John Kander, Fred Ebb, and Bob Fosse, Chicago's score includes the songs Razzle Dazzle, Cell Block Tango, and All That Jazz. The musical has won 6 Tony Awards, 2 Olivia Awards, and a Grammy. Since it opened in New York in 1996, Chicago has played in 38 countries worldwide and been performed in multiple languages. It's been seen by an estimated 34 million people, grossed over $1.7 billion and played over 35,000 performances. Chicago is based on the play by Maureen Dallas Watkins, with a book by Fred Ebb and Bob Fosse, music by John Kander, and lyrics by Fred Ebb. An article written by Alex Chisholm. Glasgow Times on Monday the 27th of January. Opinion. Education standards in Glasgow schools are falling. A column written by Annie Wells. For parents, there aren't many things which leave them feeling more powerless than the education system. It's always been this way. You send your child into a building for several hours a day with little idea about what's going on inside. And the chances are you won't hear much about it around the dinner table once they return home. I know these feelings well from experience, but I get the impression from speaking to Glaswegians now that things are getting worse. The statistics back that up too. Education standards in schools are falling, and the gap between here and the rest of the UK is widening. But it isn't just educational attainment that's an issue. It's the whole schooling experience. Violence and disorder are completely out of control in classrooms right across the city. Teachers feel unable and unsupported to take any proper action, and many of them are scared about what aggressive and unruly pupils are capable of. Children are frightened too. They worry for their own safety in the class and in the playground. And even if they themselves aren't at risk, their lessons are being disrupted by young people who refuse to behave and have never been told otherwise, either at school or at home. We know that this is the case because John Swinney, the First Minister and former Education Secretary, has acknowledged it. Teaching unions have also described the situation relating to violence and intimidation as a national emergency, pointing out that the bleak statistics are likely to be even worse, as so many incidents go unreported. However, there's nothing coming down the track in terms of a solution. There's been all manner of talking shops, consultations and strategies, but nothing on the ground is changing, and in many cases it's getting worse. It's no wonder that attainment is suffering when schools are becoming such difficult environments in which to learn. The SNP must shoulder the blame for this situation, having been in sole charge of education in Scotland for coming up to 18 years. Labour has no leg to stand on either, for all the progress that's been made in England in recent years, not least in terms of the successful academy schemes. The new UK government wants to ditch many of these positive changes and drag things back down again. And what of Reform UK? They don't have policies on anything, let alone education. I'd be surprised if they even know it was devolved to the Scottish Parliament. Parents, pupils and teachers deserve solutions now. We need a new inspection agency, independent of government quangos and staffed by those who know best, teachers. And head teachers must have more power in their own schools, including control over recruitment and budget. This would let them act swiftly when they see an issue and design a system suited to their school's specific needs. Banning phones in schools must also be pursued, and we need to potentially go further and look at Australia's banning of social media use for under 16s. The ridiculous culture of only providing unisex toilets must also be ditched. Every girl deserves a safe space which she knows cannot be accessed by males. Schooling can and will never be perfect, but it can be considerably better, and there's no excuse for delaying these improvements any longer. A column written by Annie Wells. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 27th of January. Plan for a tourist tax to raise cash for the council. An article written by Stuart Patterson. Plans for a tourist tax for Glasgow have been drawn up. The visitor levy would put a charge on overnight stays in hotels, bed and breakfasts, hostels and self-catering accommodation in the city. Councillors are being asked to approve a consultation on a proposal to introduce a 5% charge. It's expected a 5% levy would raise more than £10 million a year for the council to spend on services to improve tourism facilities. The Scottish Government passed a law last year that would allow councils to introduce a charge on visitors. Since then, Glasgow City Council officials have held meetings with representatives from the hospitality and tourism sector. Ricky Bell, Treasurer and Deputy Council Leader, said, "Visitors will come to Glasgow for many different reasons, whether for business or to take full advantage of our many events and cultural offerings. It's difficult to assess whether the introduction of a visitor levy will result in a change of visitor behaviour, which would result in a drop in demand, or a shift to less expensive accommodation. The accommodation providers did raise concerns about the economic impact of the visitor levy. However, evidence from cities in Europe suggests that this is not the case." He added, "The Scottish Government Business and Regulatory Impact Assessment found that cities that have introduced these types of taxes recently did show evidence that generally growth in visitor numbers has continued after the introduction of these taxes. Barcelona, Lisbon, Berlin, Hamburg and Paris all continued to show growth in overnight visitor numbers. At this stage, there's no evidence to suggest that the introduction of a visitor levy in Glasgow will have an adverse effect on visitor numbers. However, if it is introduced, these numbers would be closely monitored. The 5% rate has been chosen as it's considered enough to provide a reasonable level of income to achieve the scheme objectives after allowing for administration costs. It's also thought to be low enough not to impact on tourists, reducing their spending on other services whilst in the city. It would work out at an average of £4.29 per night. The levy applies to all hotels, hostels, guest houses, bed and breakfasts and self-catering accommodation, including those with an annual turnover under the VAT threshold within Glasgow. The accommodation providers said that the money raised should not be used by the council to plug budget gaps. Instead, they said, the council should make it clear that the money will be used to support the Glasgow tourism strategy, which has wide support in the industry. An article written by Stuart Patterson. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 27th of January. ScotRail confirms a minibus service following a 4-month rail line closure. An article written by Sandia Suresh. ScotRail has confirmed that a replacement bus service will serve Giffnock and Thornley Bank stations. This decision comes after the East Kilbride rail line has been closed and will be for 4 months. Initially, ScotRail had decided against a temporary bus service for these stations, except for Giffnock on Sundays. However, the train operator has now announced that a minibus will be provided throughout the week. This will connect with trains departing for Glasgow from Barrhead and Kilmarnock stations. Pollokshaws West is also included on the bus route. Giffnock and Thornleybank residents heading to East Kilbride can now join a minibus at Pollokshaws West for onward travel to stations that will allow completion of their journeys. The replacement bus service aims to operate at half-hourly intervals, although this is dependent on traffic conditions. The minibus service will be subject to ongoing review as ScotRail examines passenger behaviour in the coming weeks. Extra seats will also be available on peak morning train services from Neilston and an afternoon train at Glasgow Central, with stops at Whitecraigs, William Wood and Muir End. Jackson Carlow, Scottish Conservative MSP for Eastwood, said, "The initial determination from ScotRail to not provide a replacement bus service from Giffnock and Thornleybank was a serious concern and a major frustration. In my first representation to ScotRail, I called for an immediate review of the decision and highlighted that if no such exercise took place, the publicly owned company should at least keep the matter under consideration." At a recent drop-in event hosted by Network Rail within the Scottish Parliament, my office was represented and it had been relayed by a staff member at ScotRail who was present that a replacement bus service would now be established for Giffnock and Thornleybank. I immediately followed up in writing to ScotRail, and confirmation has now been received that a minibus service to connect Giffnock and Thornleybank with other locations to facilitate onward travel to either Glasgow or East Kilbride will be in place. I understand that there is no guarantee that the minibus provision will continue for the duration of the 4-month rail line closure, and I would urge ScotRail to think carefully should there again be any consideration towards excluding Giffnock and Thornleybank from replacement bus services. An article written by Sandhya Suresh.
This is an article from the news pages of the Glasgow Times, published on Monday, the 27th of January. It's written by Morgan Carmichael. Scottish water workers to vote on industrial action. 500 Scottish water workers are set to vote on industrial action. It comes after Unite the Union claims that a poor pay offer was made by the public body, while pointing out that Alex Plant, the Scottish Water CEO, recently earned an eye-watering £483,000. The basic pay offer made in October amounted to a 3.4% rise, or no less than £1,200 depending on salary grade, with standby payments similarly increasing by the same percentage. The offer was overwhelmingly rejected by Unite's membership. Scottish Water then proposed an additional £200, but the pay round would start from July 2024 until July 2025, and then commence in April for a year. This offer was also rejected by Unite outright, which highlighted that Scottish Water's counterparts in Northern Ireland received a £1,500 non-consolidated payment and a 5% wage rise in December. The union also pointed out that in August 2024, it was reported that Scottish Water executives were awarded £227,000 in bonuses. The bonuses followed water bills in Scotland increasing by 8.8% from April. Sharon Graham, the Unite General Secretary, said, "Scottish Water has failed to make our members a fair and decent pay offer. Contrast this management snub with the eye-watering packages its executive team members are dishing out to themselves. Unite will fully support our members in the fight for better jobs, pay and conditions at Scottish Water." Sam Ritchie, Unite's industrial officer, added, "Scottish Water's executive team appears too preoccupied with awarding themselves bonus and pension top-ups to make our members a decent pay offer. Unite has no option but to ballot our members on industrial action because Scottish Water is ignoring our members' reasonable demands. To add insult to injury, there is a botched job evaluation process ongoing, which is leading to many of our members losing pay through being downgraded. That is unacceptable, and we will fight back against this culture of arrogance at Scottish Water." Due to the key frontline roles undertaken by Unite's membership in sewers, water treatment centres and on pipework, Any industrial action will directly impact Scottish Water's ability to respond to water leakages, flooding, pollution, and quality concerns. A Scottish Water spokesperson said that the improved offer includes a minimum £1,400 increase on full-time salaries, which in total would mean raising the employee salary bill by 3.95%. The spokesperson added, "Our proposal for an annual pay award for 2024 into 2025 builds on the uplift and significant improvement to terms and conditions agreed last year with the trade unions. We are disappointed that the unions have not put our increased offer to their members and believe that balloting for industrial action is premature. We encourage the unions to engage with us." That article was written by Morgan Carmichael.
From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday, the 28th of January 2025. From the news section. Council finances are under serious pressure, says Watchdog. And this article was written by Stuart Patterson. Councils must be clear with people about how serious the risk to their finances is, according to a new report by Audit Scotland. The financial watchdog said despite more cash allocated, services are still at serious risk. Glasgow City Council will set its budget next month, once the Scottish Government has finalised the country's budget at Holyrood. The city has faced a spending gap of more than £100 million over 3 years. The report by Audit Scotland states, despite an overall increase in funding in 2024-25 and a further funding increase announced for the year ahead, intensifying demand for services, greater borrowing and depleting reserves pose ongoing challenges. Last year, according to the watchdog, councils borrowed more to invest in buildings and infrastructure, whilst Scottish Government money to support capital investment continued to decline. It led to increased borrowing by more than £400 million, leading to almost all councils now facing higher levels of debt and annual interest costs. Joe Armstrong, Chair of the Accounts Commission, said, Scotland's councils face a challenging future with significant financial risks and uncertainties. This has been compounded by pressures out with their control, including ever-increasing demand on services and inflation. An expected increase in funding for the year ahead doesn't cancel out the urgent need for transformation at a pace and depth we've not yet seen. With services already being impacted, councils must be clear with communities the scale of financial challenge being faced. Working with communities to deliver differently is vital. Opposition parties said years of cuts to the local government budget have led to a reduction in services. Mark Griffin, Scottish Labour local government spokesperson, said, "The SNP cannot ignore this stark warning and continue to bury its head in the sand about the time bomb in local government finances. Years of brutal budget cuts by the SNP and growing demands has left councils across Scotland at breaking point. Now there is a real risk that Scots are going to pay the price for the SNP's incompetence through council tax hikes." Craig Hoy, Scottish Conservative finance spokesperson, said, "This stark report paints a bleak picture about the financial position faced by Scottish councils. The SNP has been starving councils of resources for years, and Scots have seen public services crumble as a result. It's simply not sustainable for local authorities to be using savings or reserves to plug the gaps left by the SNP's lack of funding to deliver day-to-day services." And that report was written by Stuart Patterson. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday, the 28th of January 2025. Reported at 10:40 a.m. From the news section. Police swoop on Glasgow city centre building amid ongoing incident. And this article was reported by Amy Miles. Police are currently in attendance at a Glasgow city centre building amid an ongoing incident. Officers were called to 58 Waterloo Street in the early hours of Tuesday morning. It is believed that the building is currently occupied by insurance company Alliance. A police presence remains outside and the area has been taped off. A window has been shattered and the words "Drop Elbit" have been written on the walls in red spray paint. It is believed that pro-Palestinian protesters are behind the incident due to the links Alliance have with Israel. A Police Scotland spokesperson said, around 2:40 a.m. on Tuesday, January the 28th, we received a report of vandalism at a business premises on Waterloo Street in Glasgow. Inquiries are ongoing. Palestine Action and Alliance have been approached for comment. And this article was by Amy Miles. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday, the 28th of January 2025. From the news section. Rise in average household water bills in Scotland announced. And this article was written by Ben Waddell. Scottish Water has announced that average household water bills will rise by £44 per year to fund essential investment. It comes as the water firm has revealed charges which fund vital water and wastewater services in Scotland for 2025/2026. They have said the average monthly household bills will increase by £3.68 per month or £44 per year from April the 1st, 2025, which is the equivalent of 85 pence a week. More than half, 52%, of the 2.6 million plus households in Scotland receive financial support with their charges, either through the application of a discount, exemption, or reduction meeting set criteria. Water and wastewater charges to licensed providers who supply businesses and other non-domestic customers will also increase by the same amount. The charges, which are set by the Scottish Water Board, are in line with the overall price cap set by the independent regulator for the current regulatory period. Alex Plant, Chief Executive of Scottish Water, said, "People in Scotland are rightly proud of our water, and maintaining our high standards means we need long-term sustainable investment. We've all seen, including in the last few days, how weather conditions in Scotland are becoming more extreme, and we are seeing more frequent periods of both drought and intense rainfall. This puts our current infrastructure under significant pressure, and without increased investment, we risk reductions in service quality in the future. Today's announcement will enable us to continue to provide essential, high-quality services to millions of people today, while also investing prudently for the future and ensuring that costs are shared fairly between current and future generations." And that article was by Ben Waddell, read by me, Caroline. From the Glasgow Times on Tuesday, the 28th of January 2025. From the news section. ScotRail making major change at Glasgow Central Station. And this article was written by Ben Waddell. ScotRail has revealed they are making a major change at Glasgow Central Station. The rail firm announced they will be making some changes to the departure boards at the city centre travel hub from Tuesday, January the 28th. From today, train information on the displays will now be removed 90 seconds before departure instead of the current 60 seconds. ScotRail is making the big change to help prevent falls as people run to catch a train service. A ScotRail spokesperson said, "We're making some changes to the departure boards at Glasgow Central. From today, Train information on display will be removed 90 seconds before departure instead of the current 60 seconds. This change will help prevent falls as people run to catch a service. And that article was by Ben Waddle.
This is from the Glasgow Times on the 29th of January 2025 from the news section, and the headline reads, Glasgow pavement parking ban comes into force. This article is by Lucy Jackson. Drivers in Glasgow now face a £100 fine for parking on pavements as a new ban comes into force today. Under the new powers, penalty charge notices can be issued against vehicles parked on the pavement on most of the city's streets. To be in breach of the rules, a vehicle would have to have one or more of its wheels touching the pavement. Enforcement will also be taken against vehicles that are double parked or parked next to dropped curbs. The new rule, which are enforceable from Wednesday, are designed to protect pedestrians, especially people in wheelchairs and those pushing buggies, who could be forced onto the road by vehicles on the pavement. Warning notices will be handed out initially as drivers adjust to the changes. All parking fines in Glasgow are £100, reduced to £50 if paid within 14 days. There will not be signage to notify drivers of the new fines, but roads where there are exemptions will be marked. Initially, warning notices will be handed out to help drivers adjust to the changes. Glasgow City Council has produced a map which shows where there is no exemption in place. The council has urged drivers to check the map so that they are aware of which streets are exempt from the ban. Councillor Angus Miller, the city's transport convener, said, Pavement parking, double parking and parking at dropped curbs create road safety hazards across Glasgow and put vulnerable pedestrians and wheelchair users in danger every day. Forcing people to walk on the carriageway in direct conflict with traffic is unacceptable, and enforcing the new restrictions will make our streets safer for all road users. Existing pavement parking rules include exceptions for emergency service vehicles or waste collection vehicles, postal deliveries, and the delivery of urgent medical assistances. Those assisting an accident or breakdown, or delivering or collecting goods for up to 20 minutes will also be exempt. There will be no exemption on streets where parking restrictions are already in place, or where the road is at least 7.5 metres wide. The distance required for a fire engine to pass safely even when cars are parked on both sides of the road. This article was by Lucy Jackson. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 29th of January 2025 from the news section, and the headline reads, Glasgow street taped off by police after death of woman. This article was by Ben Waddle. A Glasgow street has been taped off by police following the sudden death of a woman. Cops raced to Echo Street in the city's north after being alerted to the incident, shortly after 8 AM on Wednesday, January 29th. Force was called to the area following the sudden death of a woman. Her death is currently being treated as unexplained. Meanwhile, the Scottish Ambulance Service confirmed they were also called to the incident. An ambulance and a paramedic response unit were sent to the scene. In a post on social media, several police vehicles and an ambulance could be seen parked on the street. The area has also been taped off by police while investigations are carried out. A spokesperson for Police Scotland said, around 8:25 AM on Wednesday, January 29th, 2025, we were called to Echo Street, Glasgow, following the sudden death of a woman. Her death is being treated as unexplained and inquiries are ongoing. A spokesperson for the SAS added, we received a call at 8:16 AM to attend an incident on Echo Street, Glasgow. An ambulance and paramedic response unit were dispatched to the scene. This article was by Ben Waddle. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 29th of January 2025 from the news section, and the headline reads, Glasgow workers at a huge company walk out over pay dispute. This article was by Ben Waddle. Glasgow workers at a huge firm have walked out over a pay dispute. Staff at outsourcer Capita in Glasgow and Manchester will begin strike action today in a dispute over their employer's refusal to negotiate a pay award for 2024, Unite the Union has said. There will be ongoing industrial action until 5:59 a.m. on Wednesday, February 5th. According to the union, staff from the company were due a 2024 pay award last April. However, the employers postponed the annual pay talks with their union, Unite, with the assurance that the workers would be given a pay rise in October. A spokesperson for Unite said this has not materialised despite this part of the business reporting profits and a healthy balance sheet. In December 2024, workers voted overwhelmingly to take strike action across the two Capita sites. This industrial action will start today, following the decision of their employer to deny them a pay increase. The dispute involves around 1,000 employees. Unite General Secretary Sharon Graham said, "This is a company that can fully afford to give its workers a decent pay rise, but has cynically failed to do so to boost its profits. Capita should be under no illusions about the strength of feeling of Unite members and its workplaces over pay. Our members at Capita will receive the union's unwavering support." The Capita staff in Manchester and Glasgow work on the Royal London account, which will all face disruption and delays if industrial action takes place. National Officer Dominic Hook said, "Capita has had months to sit down with Unite to negotiate with the union to ensure its workforce receives a fair pay deal for 2024. If the bosses at Capita think hiding from their staff will make this issue go away, they should think again." Because of the lack of action by management, the Capita contract with Royal London and will now face delays and disruption. Strike action will start at 7 a.m. on Wednesday, January 29th, and pickets will be in place. This article was by Ben Waddle. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 29th of January 2025, from the news section, and the headline reads, "Man died after collapsing and falling onto busy Glasgow road." This article is by Ben Waddle. A man has died after collapsing and falling onto a busy Glasgow road. Police were called to Dumbarton Road in Partick following a report that a man had taken unwell. We reported that officers were alerted to the incident shortly after 8:30 a.m. on Tuesday, January 28th, between Thornwood Drive and Exeter Drive. Now, the force has revealed an 80-year-old man was sadly pronounced dead at the scene. A spokesperson for Police Scotland said, around 8:35 a.m. on Tuesday, 28th of January 2025, police attended Dumbarton Road in Partick following a report that a man had taken unwell. Emergency services attended and the 80-year-old man was pronounced dead at the scene. This article was by Ben Waddle. This was from the Glasgow Times on the 29th of January 2025, from the news section, and the headline reads, "Probe into baby boy's death in Glasgow hospital to begin." This article is by Ben Waddle. A probe into the death of a baby boy in a Glasgow hospital who tragically died the same day he was born is set to begin. The Crown Office and Procurator Fiscal Service, COPFS, has lodged a first notice to start the court process for a fatal accident inquiry, FAI, into the death of Grayson McEwen. Baby Grayson was born in the early hours of October 22nd, 2022, at the Royal Alexandra Hospital in Paisley, and sadly passed away at the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital in Glasgow in the early afternoon of the same day. Now it has been revealed a preliminary hearing into the youngster's death has been set for March 11th, 2025 at Glasgow Sheriff Court. The purpose of an FAI includes determining the cause of death, the circumstances in which the deaths occurred, and establishing what, if any, reasonable precautions could have been taken and could be implemented in the future to minimise the risk of future deaths in similar circumstances. Unlike criminal proceedings, FAIs are inquisitorial and are used to establish facts rather than to apportion blame. The investigation will explore the circumstances of Grayson's death, with particular focus on the assessment and response to his mother's condition and adequate contingency planning at Royal Alexandra Hospital in the context of high clinical activity. Procurator Fiscal Andy Shanks, who leads death investigations for COPFS, said, The Lord Advocate considers that the death of Grayson McEwen occurred in circumstances giving rise to significant public concern, and as such, a discretionary fatal accident inquiry should be held. The lodging of the first notice enables FAI proceedings to commence under the direction of the Sheriff. Grayson's family will continue to be kept informed of significant developments as court proceedings progress. This article was by Ben Waddle.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Q and Review and to tell your friends about our service.